Quieres frutos de mis manos, sin ver mi humanidad. Si gozas de mi trabajo, yo merezco igualdad.
En Radio Jornalera no restamos ni dividimos, sumamos corazones.
Que tu voz escuche.
Hi, buenas noches. Bienvenidos a Radio Jornalera. Welcome to Radio Jornalera. Today we're here again with our show, Justicia, Salud, and we're very happy to be here again with Juan, Tabitha, and our new guest, which we're so excited to have today, Michelle. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves and say hello.
So again, I'm Juan. I'm happy to be back, and next lovely guest. I'm not guest, hostess.
Hi, my name is Tabitha. It's nice to be back again.
And save the best for last.
My name is Michelle, and you're going to learn a lot about me today.
Super excited.
So we came here today to talk about a lot of things. So we're going to do it as quickly as possible. So we want to talk about first how as medical students and Latinos we have experienced our struggles applying to medical school like we did last time a little bit more now, and how we are experiencing these struggles in medical school. And also we want to dig into more of our friend's personal life and how her experience has been applying to medical school and how it resonates to other people that are watching and also to us. Yeah. So let's start. We're going to introduce Michelle. She's a second-year medical student just like we are. And let her tell us her story and a little bit about her background and where she's from and where she grew up and how she made it where she is.
Okay. Thank you guys for that lovely introduction and also for the opportunity to talk in Radio Jornalero. So I grew up I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and I immigrated to this country when I was 7 years old. And I landed in North Bergen, New Jersey, and I lived there for the entirety of the time that I've been here in the United States. And I had an interest not in medicine, but in science initially growing up. I played a lot of sports. I played soccer and track and field. And that's where my interest in the sciences and the human body came about. And due to my sports background, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And I really liked injury prevention. I wanted to fix people in a sense, right? I experienced a lot of injuries as a soccer player. I saw people get injured and I wanted to be like, I knew that I really enjoyed playing my sport and I really didn't like it when I couldn't play it. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be a doctor that fixed that and allowed people to continue to play their sports or whatever they wanted to do with their bodies. I went to college at Rutgers, New Brunswick, tried and true. And I studied exercise physiology again because I had a deep interest in sports and I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I wanted to go to medical school and pursue orthopedics. My junior year came around and orgo kicked my butt. So I had to take some gap years. Well, I took 2 gap years. But prior to doing all of that, I had a realization that I didn't want to actually be an orthopedic surgeon, but I still wanted to be a doctor. I did a summer program at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, where I currently attend. And I spent a summer in Newark and I was immersed in the Newark community and I learned other aspects of health that I was completely unaware of, primarily health disparities and how kind of factors that are outside of our control can ultimately impact our health. And I realized that there was more to medicine than kind of just going in there and fixing an issue. There were other factors that had nothing to do with the person's control that also impacted their health. So I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, but maybe not necessarily a surgeon, but just a physician that kind of mitigated those health disparities because I kind of realized that I too grew up with those health disparities.
Right.
I came from a single parent household. Shout out to my mom, who entirely raised me by herself. And I didn't have access to healthcare growing up. I had to use community clinics. If we were going to the doctor, it was a whole day ordeal. It was something that, everyone had to schedule time out in order to take me to see a physician because we were using community health clinics. And that is something that many minorities use. So it wasn't something that you could just wake up and was like, I have to go see my physician. I'll be in and out in an hour. It's more like I'll be in and out maybe by the end of the day after I get there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's everybody, like a lot of our experience, right, in medicine.
Yeah.
How was your experience, like, as in the medical field?
Yeah, I feel like, well, in general, especially because our parents didn't know a lot of English, having to translate for them, having to like go with like, our grandparents or like our uncles, our aunts, our cousins to help them like talk to the doctor. So I feel like it was, especially when you're the oldest daughter, you have all of these different responsibilities of translating, or like when your dad is like, oh, like I don't know your date of birth, I don't like, what is this? So it's like you having to like grow up very fast at a young age to be able to like advocate for yourself and advocate for your family members too.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to segue in a little bit that ironically, where Michelle grew up is kind of similarly where I grew up, but we kind of like split paths a little bit. She grew up in North Bergen, and Gernberg is the town like literally a couple blocks away. I just happened to move prior to high school, and if not, I probably would have met Michelle in high school because I would have been the high school I would have went to. So many of the clinics that she said that she had to rely on, I actually did have to rely on as well. There was a clinic in West New York,
North Hudson Community.
Hudson Community for all the needs, dental, part of the regular annual visits. So, I mean, I didn't get to see her there, or maybe if I did, I don't remember. But I just thought it was pretty funny that after having been into medical school, and she's like, oh, yeah, I went to MB. I'm like, you went to North Bergen? Well, I know North Bergen, I'm right there. And then, like, it was just it was a good experience, having to, like, see that. Growing up, I had someone that in 15, 20 years, I was going to potentially see again in medical school. So I thought it was pretty little cool, neat thing.
Yeah, same. I mean, there was a period where we didn't have insurance, but also my family was a little different. We were undocumented, so it was really hard to even get insurance. Like, we just could not get insurance. So, I mean, I think that's part of the biggest experience that I think that kind of pushed me. My mom was sick. My dad was really sick at some point years ago, and it was just so much like it was really hard to get a doctor or to even know what to do, right? Because we don't really know anything. And so I think that growing up in that world really is what kind of pushed me like, oh, I really want to see what this is or how I can make an impact or how I can help.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have a true gift, honestly, like, coming from that background, being undocumented, you're able to share that with so many people and you're able to resonate with them. Because a lot of times, like, what I was saying yesterday, I remember how, like, people, when they go to the doctor, they're scared to go to the doctors because they're like, oh, they're going to judge me. They think that I didn't come to my doctor's appointment because I'm lazy or because I don't want to like come here or because I don't want to make time. But it's not that. It's because a lot of times we don't have the resources to get to the doctors. We can't take time off of work. We don't have someone to translate for that for us, So having this background like truly allows us to make such a great impact in our community with our future patients.
Yeah, and like I remember even we were doing preceptorship in the hospital, and I worked with we had to see a patient who didn't take his diabetes medication, and I was asking why. I mean, he couldn't afford his metformin for some reason, and I was suggesting the GoodRx and like things that I did growing up, right? And I remember my person who worked with me, like the guy the other student was like, oh, that was so good. I never heard of that, and I was like, oh, I'm so happy that we have more Hispanic and, I mean, in my case, people who come from an undocumented background who can understand these things because my friend who came from a different background, from a privileged background, would have never known. And these are the doctors who are treating these patients who would never be able to guide them or give them that help. But because we're here, we're able to give them and provide that information to them. And that's why I think a lot more Hispanic, a lot more people of these backgrounds, Black, Hispanic, Latinos, we all should invest more in learning about this field and trying to find out how we can be a part of it.
And also just telling them that it's okay to come from like lower income households. Like you are so able to make this happen. Like you're so able, to like apply to scholarships or apply it like to financial need-based aid. Because a lot of times people that think that, that come from similar backgrounds as us, oh, we can't become doctors. Like there's no way, like I don't have parents who are physicians. I don't have connections to get me into medical school, but there are definitely like ways to get into medical school. And as you can see, like all of us have something to share. Like we're able to make such a huge difference in our communities.
Right. Yeah. Especially growing up, you feel like being a doctor is such a, wow, it's so prestigious and it's such an unreachable goal. Yeah. And I think that in my life, per se, it was such an unreachable goal. Yeah. And we were just talking about how much I cried for this white coat, but it was like I treated it so badly because it was so hard for me. It was like I went through so much to get there. Exactly. Right. And like we think, oh my God, it's never going to happen. My brothers and I joke around and we're like, it's the unicorn career. And that's how we say say it, because we think it's something that it can't happen to you. But there's so many resources and so many things that we don't know about. And that's what we're here to share, but not today, later. But a little bit more about Michelle, since we're like talking about minorities. And I was talking to them about how we're like women, and it's hard. First, it's hard to be Hispanic, right? It's hard to be undocumented. It's hard for me to be even women. We had incidents really recently where women in medicine have been treated poorly, right? So I know that my experience in medicine is going to look a little different than a white male, right? But even then, I sometimes forget how much privilege I can have to other communities, right? So like, and when I talk to my brother, and like, I don't know how a gay person can live or how they experience their these different struggles, right? And as much as I'm an ally, I want to be cognizant. I want to learn more, and I want to see how I can be better, right? Because that's how we grow, and that's how we support each other, and that's how we support different minority groups. Right. You don't have to be that minority to be supportive, right? And so that's why we would like to ask Michelle to give us a little more insight on how her experience has been in medicine, and how that's shaped you and helped you influence maybe even your career now, or like your specialty, or what you think you want to do.
Yeah, sure. So to provide context, I like to say that I'm a triple minority. I am a woman, I am Hispanic, and I'm also gay. So in regards to how my identity has shaped my desires to pursue medicine or to pursue careers, or like what I would like to do in the medical field, I think in various ways. I definitely want to contribute to my communities, in that I want to be a physician who helps serve those that are like me. That doesn't mean that I'm exclusively going to serve those that look like me. I'm here to be a provider, obviously. But I think I have an understanding of what it's like to be Hispanic. I have an understanding of what it's like to be gay. And I want to continue to serve those populations that are near and dear to me. And I think it also gives me like a sense of, like Maria was saying, it gives me a sense of understanding of just better empathy for other people who may not be like me. Although I am gay, not every gay experience is exactly the same. But given that I have that first baseline characteristic, it makes it easier for me to empathize with those who may have similar backgrounds. And I think that's going to make me the best physician that I can be, because in a sense, medicine is providing care to all, no matter what creed or background or anything like that.
Also, a lot of people feel like they can't trust other people because they don't look like them. And it happens even like not just in race too. Yeah. You don't see someone who doesn't look like you, like they're not going to understand. They're not going to know what they're, and also it happens with like in gay world, I'm sure, right? Like they're not going to be able to share certain things that they, that they're going through, because they think other straight doctors are not going to understand. And that's why we need the inclusion. And that's what we fight so much for, to have more diversity in every way. And I think that is a really important way to have inclusion.
And I do agree. I think that at least in one of the things in our classes that we learn is that sometimes some patients, when they're disclosing to you, or they're have no one to go out to, like, oh, let me try to talk to my doctor. And the moment that they sense that they're going to feel judged, or that they're looking at me weird, they don't know what then they close. Now they don't have that other person to really talk to. And I really think that's like something that our school tried to, show us, like, and I like the point that Michelle said, that providers, they essentially are to treat patients, every kind of patient that comes into the office. So I do agree with that. Yeah, I really, really do. Yeah. And one other thing that I just wanted to segue with is at least to kind of give you guys a little perspective into our day-to-day as well. So like today happens to be one of our last days as a second-year medical student. And we have a big licensing exam that's coming up. And the reason I bring this up is because I feel that's something that within at least myself, and maybe you guys as well, something's called imposter syndrome. I feel that in my case, and I'm sure with you guys as well, that we don't have our parents who are physicians, right? So we have to go out ourselves, and you have to kind of believe in yourself, like, hey, you can do it. But sometimes really not seeing that representation really starts to give you doubts. Can I do it? Like, this is really hard. And we were talking about it today because yesterday, to again bring it back into our lives, as a medical student, I took NOSCI, which is where I essentially am playing pretend doctor, and we have a patient that is an actor, and they were playing what a patient would come into the office with. And one of our friends was telling me how her dad was trying to help her prep and everything. And she was sharing us the experience, and she was just letting us know that, oh yeah, her dad was also a doctor, a physician. And in my head, I was like, oh wow, like that must, it's really good. Like to have someone that has gone through it, they know what it is, they can prepare you, they can tell you, hey, give you advice. In our cases, we don't really have that. And it's just, I don't know how you guys felt, but how do you feel
Just
about
really
that?
quickly, just to give a little more background, can you tell us what imposter syndrome is? Because I know a lot of people at home probably don't know.
Yeah.
So this is my crude definition of imposter syndrome, where basically like you tend to feel that you don't belong in the spaces that you clearly do belong because of some external factor, or because you see people say that my dad's a physician, or I have X amount resource and you don't, and you might feel like, oh, I don't have that, or I can't do that. Like I don't see people who look like me in these spaces, so maybe I don't belong. So I think that's what imposter syndrome is essentially feeling like you don't belong somewhere where you've actually clearly achieved everything that is needed to be done to be in that position. But yeah, I think seeing and realizing that a lot of your classmates have parents who are doctors is a little bit jarring, but definitely not surprising, given that a lot of the field of medicine is full of kind of legacies. So like medicine is primarily dominated by um, white people with privilege. So to realize that a lot of your peers don't, I mean, have parents who are physicians is something that is initially surprising. But then when you realize and you look at the statistics, it's like, oh no, this makes perfect sense. But I think one thing that I get kind of solace in is like realizing that like, oh, that person had a parent, a mom, a dad, a grandparent who were all physicians, and they're here. And I had nobody, and I'm also here. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Hey, look, we made it to the same exact spot, and I didn't get those privileges. And there's nothing wrong with those privileges. A lot of the times, I think, we like to argue against nepotism, and nepotism is a problem, of course, but nepotism isn't an issue when you address it in the sense and you see what privileges you were given with that nepotism. It's when you ignore it as a factor to your success that it becomes problematic. So I take a lot of joy in seeing that like I didn't have any other resources. I kind of had a computer and like this brain right here, and I made it to the same spot that you did.
How do you think imposter syndrome has affected you?
I really feel like for the longest time, I've always struggled with that. Even in college, I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but I was always so scared. Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. Like, I don't have parents who can help me get there. My parents couldn't afford for me to get tutors. Even studying for the MCAT was such a huge struggle for me because a lot of people were able to afford private tutors. I, like Michelle was saying, had my books, had my computer, and had to use my brain. And it was difficult. It was so hard because even it all comes down to like your upbringing too. I didn't come from the best like school systems, and not having that like meant that I had to work like I guess 3 times as hard trying to like really sit down and learn all of this material that it took for me in order to get into medical school. Even speaking English as a second language, like having to study for the car section, I feel like that was a huge like downfall for me because I'm like, oh my god, like reading comprehension is so difficult. Like I can't wrap my head around this, but kind of like you guys are talking about having like our community, having people that I grew up like with similar upbringings as us, people that share the same goals and desires as we do. I feel like that always keeps me grounded. And even today, like whenever I have been doing like my preceptorships, like going and walking in the hospital, seeing doctors like that look nothing like me, and I'm just like, wow, like kind of how you were saying too, like I'm like a unicorn, like this is crazy, like no one really here looks like me. But despite that, like I always remind myself like I have such a power, and like being able to like bridge like these language and cultural gaps is something so important. And even though we might feel like we don't belong, we just have to remind ourselves like all of this is for a reason. Like we will impact so many people's lives.
Yeah, I think experiencing imposter syndrome is so difficult to let go of because it happens almost every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes unconsciously we don't think about it. And like now we're going to start studying for our first licensing exam. It's called Step 1. We just finished our clinical years, which we're so happy about. But I think that constant negative feeling of thinking, oh my God, am I not going to make it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to have to push that exam? Because you feel like you're not capable of doing things. And it is that feeling engraved in every little thing. Even studying for another exam, it's like, I'm going to fail, I have to study extra. It's because we feel like we have to work harder because we're so used to putting that extra effort and doing things so alone that it reflects in so many things. And it's such a stress, unfortunately. And it's constantly reminding each other, like, we can do it. We're here for a reason. We made it this far. We can do it. And I think having such a support from each other to like push and tell, okay, we got you. We know we're smart enough. We can do this. We belong here. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we first started school, we had a class called HHH. I'll explain that later. But in that class, the first thing we talked about was privilege. That was our first topic. And in my class, there was 12 different people. And in my class, we had to write about 3 privileges that you had. And they were like, or that you didn't have. I forget what it was. Anyway, so they were like, oh, I had privilege. And the privilege I didn't know I had was that I had health insurance. I didn't know people didn't grow up. One of my friends said that, and I was like, okay. And then the other person was like, I didn't know that I had privilege because I grew up in green spaces, like I had a park. And I was like, okay. Like they were mentioning all these privileged things that I didn't grow up having, but they were so in awe to know that some people grew up without them. And I was like, oh my God, I am clearly in the wrong place. Like I couldn't come up with privilege. And I was like, oh my God, come up with something. Like I could not. And I think instantly I'm like, okay, maybe my brother's gay. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I was straight. That's a privilege because I don't know what he's going through. So I said that, but I was just so uncomfortable. That whole session made me feel like I don't belong here. I'm sitting with the wrong people. Like they're talking in awe and they're so surprised of how poor people can be and how much people struggle. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. Like I'm essentially the epitome of the people they're surprised of. Like how can I be sitting in the same table of these people? They're so like, they're gonna think of me or they're gonna be scared of me. And like that was my first experience in a class in medical school. And I'm like, okay, I clearly don't belong here. How the heck did I make it here? And I think that was my first experience of imposter syndrome. And ever since then, I constantly think like, oh my God, I'm not like everybody else and I belong here. And I think those are the kind of experience that kind of made me like go into a little cave because I feel like I'm not going to be like everybody else. Everybody is just so different. But I think essentially working together and having like a group of people to help you and to remind you that you can and you will be able to get through things is really important.
I think upon like reflecting, I again like to use my minority status as a superpower. I am very privileged. If you really think about it, the immigrant experience isn't the same for everyone. Not every immigrant that comes to this country gets the opportunity to attend college or go to medical school or get full educations. So in a sense, we are of a privileged class.
We are.
But the privilege that we have is essentially we're trying to use it to uplift those that didn't have those same opportunities. Even though that we were immigrants, we were also afforded opportunities that are not given to everyone. We happen to get by chance or by work, we got the opportunities that we got, and it allowed us to go to college and eventually get here.
Yes.
So in a sense, I know I do have a privilege. I have an education. Like that is a superpower. And if anything, sometimes in thinking and reflecting and seeing like what things people consider privileges and what things people don't, like I have a privilege in that I am bilingual. I speak 2 languages. That is something that not everybody has. So like I think it's jarring in the beginning to hear all the stark differences between some of your classmates who grew up completely different than you. But if you really think about it and you sit there and you look at your qualities, you are right there. Like there's really like you bridge that gap. And I know that like, I don't know. I know that we experience the anxieties of like being first gen or being minorities, but like we are just as good, if not, in my opinion, better. Like it's just you need to, it's hard and it's not something that's easy. Like it's not easy to reflect upon and see what are my good qualities, what are things that I bring to this table that what makes me unique, what makes me me. And I think a lot of our cultural experiences, how we grew up, the things that we've done really help and contribute to that. And we are assets. We are not just like secondary like people. We are just as good as whoever else is there.
Right. No, I think growing up for me, especially even in college, has been learning to love everything about my culture, about me, about seeing the differences and being proud of those things.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of these places and a lot of these circles, it's kind of like looked down upon those experiences. And now I've learned to like uplift and use that in my favor. So I think it is good to always recognize what you've been through and use that to make yourself feel like you are, that you're living the privilege. And even then, I always like to, any point I can thank my parents, but I always say I'm very thankful, because even going through college and undergrad, I know there are a lot of people who are my age who can't, they have to work, they have to pay bills, they have no support from the parents. They can't. The parents can't help them. And I am so thankful that my parents are so supportive and so helpful with everything. I could not do anything without them.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is 100% a privilege. And I'm so thankful that I can go and just go through everything with them.
I agree with you. Same here. Like my parents, I thank them for everything, because they gave me the opportunity to focus on my education, focus on school. Like when I was sitting there for so many hours studying for the MCAT, they were the ones who would cook me dinner, who would bring me snacks, bring me food, make me breakfast, like all those little small things. And I feel like I always get asked questions like, how can parents support their children who are going through this like phase? And it's like doing simple acts of kindness like that. Packing them lunch or like giving them food, like, because we're obviously super stressed. But something that I also wanted to mention is that growing up in a lower income household, I feel like also came with some benefits and I guess some privilege in a way too, because I was able to like go to school with like so much, I guess, financial aid, because my parents, like, we made like no money. So for us, it was that case. And like, being able to apply to all these fee assistance programs for medical school, for the MCAT, getting discounts for the MCAT. So there's definitely different options, but I know that there are students who are undocumented, and maybe you can like share some like tips, or like what if people wanted to go to college, like what would you suggest? Because I don't think they qualify for FAFSA, right?
To apply.
Like if you're undocumented.
So recently things have changed. Now you can apply
Okay.
to FAFSA. There are a lot of things that have changed recently within the past probably 4 years, I would say. They can apply for financial aid in New Jersey now.
Okay, that's good.
So a lot of things have changed, and I'm sure maybe we can talk more about that in detail. If they didn't know, yes, they can apply for FAFSA, they can apply for financial aid. When I was growing up, I could not. But yes, so there are a lot of resources now that are available. I think that topic has become more known.
Yeah.
A lot of people know. When I was applying to medical school, that nobody knew what DACA was. And I remember that instant I emailed and JMS, and I was like, can you please look at my application, please? And they're like, no, sorry, we just look at and I was like, why? But I'm saying, like, things have changed from now to now, because
definitely.
a lot of schools now look at DACA, and a lot of the applications, even for financial aid, they say like residents, whatever, but also DACA applicants.
Oh, that's amazing.
So things are changing, thankfully. And so a lot of people who are DACA or who are undocumented should definitely look up for a lot of financial aid that's still available. A lot of resources are still available for everybody now, more equally than before.
So it is definitely still a dream that's attainable for the people who want to be physicians.
Yes, for sure. Yes, especially more so than now. I mean, more so now than before.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no. At least in my case, how my experience is, I'm just trying to blank. I'm sorry. So, I think, as Maria said, my parents really played a big role in the support system. I think that of itself is privilege. Not everybody gets to grow up with parents, and then that of its own can be also considered a privilege, their upbringings. But I think a lot of what they did, showing me the support that I can do things, showing me that when things get difficult, hey, there's always a way. And I don't know. Usually, when I talk a little bit about this topic, it kind of gets me a little emotional because I owe a lot to them. I really do. Sometimes I don't know if like I show that, and then I try to, and I'm sure they're proud of me. I really do. But yeah, no, I really anytime that I could like show them my gratitude, like I really do. Like, their struggles don't go unseen. They're like I really appreciate everything they've done, and that of its own is privilege, I want to say.
There's a cool card in one of our like buildings at school that says like, be proud of yourself like your mom is proud of you. And I think that is like something that we should all truly embody, because in our parents' eyes, we're already like surgeon, doctor, astronaut, engineers, right? So it's like that confidence and that belief really will take you very, very far. And it's something that is hard to embody, but it's something that definitely we should all try to embody because we all possess the qualities to kind of fulfill that role of confidence of I can do this, I am capable of doing this. You don't have anything that points towards the opposite. But I really think that since, especially in growing up in medicine or, well, being working towards the medical field, being in the medical field, you sort of start. It's impossible to not compare yourself and not kind of see like what you're lacking or what you're deficient in. But oftentimes we fail to see like what we do have and what are our strong suits and what are our positives. So it's really important to kind of keep that at the forefront and really look at yourself and be proud and be confident like your mom is. Your mom, if you were to ask your mother, can your son do this? She'd be like, claro que sí, ¿por qué no? Like it would never be a question. There would never be any doubt in your parents thinking about your capabilities. So I think that we should all try to like be as proud of ourselves as our parents are proud of us. And I'm sure you make your parents very proud, Juan. You do give back to them. I'm sure you do.
Oh my gosh, she helps us out like emotionally. Like I could just imagine how much support.
I just told him that. I was like, oh my god, your parents are do they bother you so much? Because like we ask him for
Yeah.
I have a question. So how has this year, these last 2 years, so we are just finished our second year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think these 2 years, how can you assess these 2 years as a Latina, like how do you think it has shaped you, has made you different, or has your culture been impacted in these last 2 years?
Well,
we're both answering.
Sorry, I feel like from like the little events that we would like volunteer at, I know we went to like the seed test and treat fair, like going there with like limited, I guess, medical knowledge because we only are like second year medical students. We haven't been working with like patients in the clinical floors yet, but just seeing how much of an impact you can make, like knowing that there are different resources. Like I remember we had a patient come in and she was like looking for resources for, unfortunately, like how to seek help for like domestic violence, and she only spoke Spanish. So she saw that I spoke Spanish and she immediately like gravitated towards me. And I just went there like thinking, okay, like I'm a student, like I can't do anything, I can't offer much, I'm just here to help you like fill out paper basically. But even that, like she like told me her whole life story, and she was seeking help. She was like, how can I like see a primary care physician? How can I get, my vaccinations? Because she was also an immigrant. And I was like, you came to the perfect place because here we have so many different resources that we can offer you. And then I spoke to the OB-GYN. I told them like everything that was going on, and like, they followed up with her. But I feel like, as a Latina in medicine, even though, again, I don't have that much knowledge to like, I guess, make such a huge impact yet, like all of those small things, like because of my background, because I speak Spanish, because I relate to, her upbringing and whatnot, really makes us like make such a huge impact. So I'm just excited to very soon start working with patients and being able to like apply all those different skills.
I think these past 2 years, let me make sure I got your question right. Tell me again.
You can just tell us how these last 2 years has impacted you in your life.
I think these past 2 years have just made me like even more like I could do this. Like I'm more pumped than anything. I don't know. Like I feel like the past 2 years have definitely been hard, but I was like, we got this. Like we could do this. Like there is no doubt in my mind that the journey will be tough, but I am fully capable and trained to do this. And I think we all are. Like I think there's no deficiencies, there's no weaknesses. We're here to grow and adapt. And I think these past 2 years I've grown and adapted. And I think that's why I'm so happy to see what's to come in the future, and definitely like welcome it with open arms. Like I know it's going to be hard, I know it'll be tough, but like I have a community of people, I have myself, and I know I could do it. I think these past 2 years have been really challenging but like fun. Like I think it's really cool. I think I wake up sometimes and I'm like, wow, what a again privilege it is to wake up and be a student for That's all I have to do. All I have to do is I get to sit and learn about the human body and how it works, and I get to apply it in cases like OSCEs, or I get to go to a clinic and talk to a patient. And little things that I don't think about every day, like my ability to speak Spanish or my understanding of DACA or other social services, is always reminded in like the smallest or like most unexpected settings, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's been pretty cool. I've thoroughly enjoyed my first 2 years of medical school. I'm really happy I get to see what comes next. And I think within these 2 years too, I've really established, like, I think community is something very important to me. I think it's very, very important to have a group of people who you can relate to, whether culturally, spiritually, or mentally. It's very important to have those people who get you. And I think I've worked a lot more towards establishing those people. And I'm happy to have my community and my tribe who really understand me and who are not like judgmental of me and who support me in various ways. So I'm happy. Like I have like zero complaints, and maybe this is not like a common like thing for second year medical students. I hope it is. I hope y'all are all happy. But I'm happy. That's all I can say.
How about you, Juan?
For me, really, these past 2 years, they've flown by like so fast. Not too long ago, I was starting, and now I'm getting ready to take my first licensing exam, and I'm just kind of like, oh wow, like how fast time goes.
Crazy.
I think there's also these 2 years, just kind of going back to the imposter syndrome, really has shown me that I can do it. I really had a hard time in the beginning adjusting to like the pace, to what was demanding of what medical school is. But I think it really also has made me much more humble with everything. You know, really that first class that we took in HHH, I actually was pretty happy that we had that as our first one, because it really showed me. It like really changed. Not no, I guess it gave me new perspective into seeing things, and I'm really excited just because I get to apply everything now. So we took an exam today. You know, bring us back to our day to day. So we took an exam today, which is a practice exam for our licensing. I didn't go so great. You know, I got my butt beat. But it really, I guess, the excitement is that in the next 2 years now, I guess I do the doctor things that maybe my friends might think, because my friends, when I tell them med school, they're thinking I'm doing this, doing that, and I'm just still looking at books. I'm like, oh. And these next 2 years, we get to be in the hospital, we get to interact with patients, and also I guess I can find myself a little bit more in the sense that I'm still uncertain into what I want to go into, and kind of getting a little bit more exposure in that. I'm really excited to and looking forward to.
So just for people who don't know, so in medical school is 4 years. And with the first 2 years, we do all learning theory, let's say. We learn everything about medicine, or everything we could learn about medicine. But we do learn about like cardiology, neurology, respiratory system, the renal system, all just learning. We don't see patients at all. The next 2 years after we take the first licensing exam, that's when we are going to go into the hospital and do what they call rotations, and that's when we see patients. And so when we're reflecting now on our first 2 years, which went by really fast, incredibly fast. I remember when I was starting school, I was really afraid because I was a lot older than the traditional student, and I was debating whether I actually want to quit my job and go back to school, or should I not. I was already giving up on the idea of going to medical school. And my dad was like, no matter what, you're going to be over 30. No matter what, you're going to be like, that age is going to come. You're going to either be that age being a doctor or not. And those years are going to go by so quickly. And now I'm looking at my dad like, 2 years went by too quickly. Like, I just remember starting, and just where did these 2 years go? And so, yeah, time goes really fast. But for sure, these 2 years learning a lot about things, for sure, I feel like I've learned a lot about, and I don't want to go back so much about how immigrant families suffer, but a lot how these different diseases have a special impact on immigrants, on on Hispanic, on Black lives, it like hypertension, a lot of the diseases that affect people, and how cancer affects how it impacts us as a community differently. And it was important for me to understand that, because I knew things happen differently, and I knew that that's true, but I just wanted to learn more, and how we can now better talk to patients when we talk to them and understand certain risk factors that increase in our community. And that was important for me to learn now. And hopefully when we go into our rotation years, I can apply that. And even as a physician, we can apply those kind of things that we've learned. And also, for example, I don't know, like how unhealthy our life is. For example, well, Hispanic food is very delicious, but it can be very greasy. It can be eating a lot of unhealthy things, and that's why we have a high incidence of diabetes and hypertension. And like learning all these things really scared me, because my dad has hypertension, and I remember recently coming home and he eats a lot of salt, and I keep begging him to stop eating salt. I hope he's not watching me. I love you, Dad. But what we were learning about hypertension and having like risk factors and like brain things, right? Like affecting your brain. And he was like, I have a strong headache. And I was like, stop eating salt. You're going to have like a brain tumor. And I was just like spitting things out to him. And he was just looking at me like, okay, I know. And I was like, you don't know. Tell me. Explain to me. What am I saying? He was like, he was just like upset. But I'm saying, my point is, we're learning all these things in these years. And these are very critical years. And I'm happy to learn so much and be able to now apply it little by little at home with my parents, with people around me, just like teaching them things that I'm learning is really cool. But also like learning how as a community and Hispanic people, we have these increased risk factors, and how hopefully we can learn to mitigate those problems in the future, because I don't know how to do everything. We don't know how to do everything. But talking about that, I know like we all being in medical school is so hard to balance a lot of things, and at least for me it's been so hard to eat healthy because we're so busy. I mean, we're really happy to be here and very thankful and humbled by every way, but of course we dedicate a lot of our time to studying, and we wake up to study, we go to sleep studying, and a lot of people don't really understand how hard it really is. And we don't often have time to meal prep or to make meals, and we just end up eating a lot of unhealthy things. How has that affected you guys, and how has that experience been?
I feel like definitely like sitting around for so many hours out a day studying, it's exhausting, and I feel like I'm tired all the time. But that's why it's important to always take breaks. But I always like I'm a big like advocate of like planning your day like ahead of time, like the night before, like set up, okay, this is what I want to do the next day. Like if you want to go to the gym, like packing up your clothes, packing up literally every single thing that you need for the next day so it's ready. And that way, like as soon as you wake up, you have no excuse. Like, okay, my meals are ready. I know what I'm going to eat. I know what I'm going to wear. Like the only thing that's left is for me to just like change and get out of my house. So, I like would usually go to the gym in the mornings. I'll like, study for a period of time. And then it's also like very important to make time for yourself, and also, like make time for things that you're passionate about. Like, we're very like involved with like LMSA, which is the Latino Medical Students of America. So there's also different organizations in medical school if you're interested, where you're able to build like a sense of community with like people that look like you. And I know this is kind of like off topic, but like for like students that are interested in medical school, I think it's so important to go to medical school where there's people that look like you in terms of like student body, in terms of, staff members, representatives, because you want to be around people that will advocate for you worst case scenario. Like, honestly, I say this all the time, but like, it would be so difficult for me to get through medical school if I didn't have you guys, if I didn't have, our community, like, because you guys understand the struggle, you guys get it. And it's like, it's very hard to sometimes be open about certain struggles with other people who might not relate, or you're kind of scared of being judged and whatnot. But, choosing a medical school where you have that sense of community is something very important. But we can go back to answering the original question.
Between going to medical school, I did a master's in human nutrition at Columbia, because food is one of my biggest passions. I love to eat, but I also like to make my own food. And I also think that our food systems and our diets really impact our health outcomes. Naturally, most Latino diets are not bad. They're not inherently poor diets. They're actually good. They're full of proteins, grains, vegetables. But a lot of what has been happening back home in our countries is commodification. We've had the introduction of things like Coca-Cola taking over and kind of like making these healthy traditional cultural foods less palatable, right? It's less appealing to eat tortillas and like vegetables and chicken when you have the McDonald's that's twice as cheap as, eating regular diets. So it's very important to maintain that healthy eating, and very important to understand that like you need fuel to work efficiently, right? It like medical school is stressful, medical school is hard, but if you take, like Habta said, the time to just schedule out your meals and your food and realize that if I do this really well, it's going to impact the rest of my day, it's so, so, so beneficial. Like, I think with my nutrition background, I have the privilege of understanding the difficulties in eating well. But I think that's also allowed me to better potentially counsel patients on how to do that, given that it's not so easy, because eating healthy is not just about eating vegetables and fruits. It's about being able to afford those vegetables and fruits, having accessibility, understanding the importance of diet. It's multifaceted, and oftentimes we reduce it to, well, you just don't have the will to eat well. And it's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. There's many, many factors that impact how a person eats. So in medical school, I think most of my diet hasn't changed. I think I had a rather boring diet. I think I tell Tabitha all the time that I tend to eat a grain, a protein, and a vegetable in that order 5 days a week, and I have no problems with it. But that's something that's not feasible for everyone. And it shouldn't be something that you should do. The diet that's going to work for you is a diet that you stick to, right? So no matter how healthy something is or how good something is for you, if you do not like it, you will not do it. But it's also understanding that food is good. You should enjoy food. You should eat, poorly once in a while, because, we weren't created to just eat healthy all the time and be drones. But if a majority of your diet is good and clean, you will be healthy. And I think you should indulge in those bad foods once in a while, and nothing's going to happen to you.
I don't know if I'm asking too much, but I know a lot of people are interested who are probably watching. Do you have like a little advice for like a good balanced diet, since you have this nutrition background?
It's so hard, because it's like a lot of the times when we think about good balanced diet, we tend to look at it from the lens of like Western good. So it's like not even Western good, but like we tend to look at it from it's not culturally relevant. So we like to look at the Mediterranean diet as like a good healthy diet. But most people may not eat olive oil as a daily staple. Most people may not eat as many grains in the form of whole wheat bread, etc., as daily staples. So in telling a patient that they should adopt the Mediterranean diet in order to have a healthier lifestyle, you're doing them a disservice, because you're introducing foods that are not part of their daily diet into their diet or their budget. Olive oil is not cheap. It's quite expensive. So I think little substitutions here and there will take you a long way, and you don't have to make drastic changes to your everyday diet in order to live a healthy lifestyle. I think incorporating grains, I think you should have a vegetable at every single meal, no matter what it is. Like you could have a sprinkling of arugula. A sprinkling of arugula 3 times a day becomes a bunch, and there you have a serving. Right. And now you're not trying, you do these things slowly over time. It's not something that you're going to gradually wake up and be like, and I think that's what happens. It's like you get into this mindset that I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to eat really well. I'm eliminating butter and sugar and oil and everything. And I'm going to only eat boiled foods and grilled and roasted. And then you hate your diet because this is not the pattern that you've had for many, many years. And, if you want to change it and reestablish a new one, that takes time. Right. You have to be forgiving. You have to be kind to yourself. Some days you're going to be like, I really don't want to eat the broccoli, the brown rice, and the chicken. And you don't have to. You could slip away from it. So, yeah, I think if in making a daily like healthy diet, just try to incorporate little by little greens, vegetables, grains, good healthy proteins, and you'll get there.
She's being nice. I'm saying no soda. No soda. I'm just kidding. No.
Diet soda is perfectly fine. You can drink diet soda.
I'm saying no cookies, no cakes. I'm just kidding. No. Is there anything you think people should decrease?
Yes, full sugared sweetened beverages are the devil. You should not drink juice. You should not be drinking soda. You should not be drinking any sugar sweetened beverages. Diabetes, it is a terrible, terrible disease. It's incredibly prevalent in our communities, mostly because of commodification. Again, one of the craziest facts that I like to share is how, like, I think the second biggest consumer of Coca-Cola is Mexico, mostly because it is cheaper than water. And that is a direct result of commodification. It has nothing to do with the people of Mexico, it's like you tell people water is $3, Coke is 50 cents. People are going to pick Coke. It's going to quench their thirst. It's going to do exactly what the water does, except that it gives them the negative side effects of diabetes and a ton of other non-communicable diseases. So yeah, stay away from the sugars. I think sugar is the devil.
Like to add anything to this one?
I'm gonna get a little bit of backlash, but I'm actually the bad example. I can justify myself when I'm studying a lot. Oh, I don't got time. Let me make something really quick. Go to the fast food, and then I find myself, paying the consequences. So I do agree everything that Michelle says. With learning about these things, I think it just makes me at least more cognizant of like, okay, it's all fun and games now. Okay, I feel healthy, but then 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, ooh, now the sugar's starting to go up.
Yeah.
Ooh, the cholesterol is starting to go up. But then what was that a result of? That's a result of the bad eating that I had, younger. So it's just me being aware, oh, I'm all fine now, but in the future I might not be. And so it's just, I don't know, I guess that really makes me more cognizant. That's why me getting a little backlash on being a bad person, but I really think that has changed my aspect in nutrition, and not just nutrition as well, also exercise.
Yeah, the reason I brought this up was one, because I mean, it's so hard for us to keep a healthy diet or to eat a balanced diet while we're in medical school. And we want to be able to do that so that we can tell our patients to do that, right? So it's like learning so hard, and it's so hard for us, but hopefully learning to navigate this everyday problem can help us to be able to teach our patients how to do it, because we have to practice what we preach, one. And two, we are what we eat, right? So like it's eating healthy is a very difficult thing in our community, especially, right? One, it's not affordable, it's not accessible in a lot of places. Having vegetables and fruits and all these things are not even a thing for a lot of places, and it's so much easier, so much cheaper to have a how do you call it, the 5 for 5 or the Wendy's things, or McDonald's. Like they're so much cheaper for a lot of families, and so finding a balance, or finding even pantries, finding all these things for our community is really important. And so I want to have a time in here to always advocate for eating as healthy as you can. I know it's hard, and I know sometimes it's not affordable, but having that one vegetable and eliminating soda or making a little bit healthier things can really change the course of your health, and can decrease things like diabetes, the risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, because these are really big problems in our communities. And I know that because my family goes through it, because we eat these very fatty things, unfortunately. And so I think there's always a place for us to always tell our patients and our family and our friends, please eat a little healthier, because that's going to be a big thing in your life as you grow older, and it's going to have an impact on your health in general.
I think it's very important to kind of further explain what it means to eat healthy. So most patients get told to do that, or most patients get told to exercise. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand what it means to eat healthy, right? So I think it's getting the education and getting the understanding of what a healthier diet entails also is very helpful as a physician, right? You need to come with the tools and explanations to teach rather than just give commands out, right? You could prescribe a medication and have a patient like check out the script, but you can't just do the same thing for eat healthy. It's not equivalent. You need to explain these things to these patients, because the reason why they're not eating healthy is because they probably just maybe don't know how, or they do know how, but they just have no access. They have no ability. They can't afford the $5 bag of spinach, right? That those $5 could go a long way with other foods that are maybe not as healthy. So I think it's very important as future doctors to empathize and understand that nobody inherently wants to be unhealthy. There are factors in a person's life that impact their ability to do that. And being aware and cognizant of all the factors that go into, and all the barriers, if anything, that go into achieving these metrics that we want our patients to achieve is very, very important to keep in mind. So yeah, I'm happy to have this background in nutrition, and I'm happy that there's more tools that are accessible for everyday people to kind of teach themselves how to eat healthier, because it's important. It's just not something that's well explained, and I think that's where the troubles come in. It's like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. My doctor keeps telling me to do this for my diabetes and my hypertension, but I have no idea where to start because nobody taught me anything. And that's not to fault the physician. I think nutrition is not a giant component of medical education, which is truly unfortunate because what we eat truly impacts who we are. And I think it's very important to, if you're not taught it, then you find some way to absorb at least a little bit of knowledge so that you can impart it onto your future patients.
Right. No, I think that's true. Eating healthy could be difficult to explain to a patient, but for sure there are general things, right? Like, don't drink so much soda. Like, don't eat. And it's hard because a lot of our diets don't, like, I know my diet in my house, in a Hispanic household, we barely have vegetables in our meal. Like, I don't have vegetables I don't have a salad. We don't see that. And so, like, sharing these things, you don't have to drastically change your diet, but incorporating these vegetables, fruits, what we consider healthier options, and taking down a little bit of the soda, of the orange juice, of all these, that's important. And those can have big changes in your life, decreasing the salt amount. We take a lot of salt. I love salt. So I'm saying making these little changes can have a huge impact in your life, even if you might not be able to know exactly what's like the healthiest diet, because I don't even know what the healthiest diet is. And it's really hard to adhere to the healthiest diet because we don't have access to it. We don't have time. In most cases, people work 2 jobs. A lot of people don't have a kitchen in their house. A lot of people share places, and so it's hard to cook. I totally understand that. And it's finding the best possible way to eat and under the worst circumstances is what I'm saying. If you can decrease the things that we know generally to not be the healthiest, would be a big step towards a healthier future. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
We do have a question from the audience.
Of course, go for it.
So, how do you all take care of your mental health and the stress that goes with medical school?
The village you see with us. Yes. No, I really mean that. There's really times where things get really rough. You know, the school is very demanding, in that there's just so much that you need to know in so little time, and you just have to remember that you're not the only one going through this. You know, there are other people that are just going through this as well. And just, encouraging yourself, hey, it's rough right now, but we'll get through it and it's going to get better. It's not going to be forever. And, just, making some jokes here and there in the little fan clubs that we have. But no, really just really helping out each other, and, pushing each other. Just give yourself a reminder not to also be so hard on yourself. I think being where we are is because we had to have pushed ourselves so much. We really don't have it. I guess for all of us, things weren't given to us. We had to go out and work. Doors got closed and you go find it. And I think in school, we also, want to be the best that we can. But sometimes it's okay if you don't get to where you want it to be in that moment. It's okay. And I think just giving yourself that reminder that it'll be okay.
Kind of like how Juan was saying, having your your support system, obviously celebrating every step of the process. Like me and Michelle, we always had this day where okay, whenever we're done really bad, we have our favorite dessert that we want to get.
The chocolate stick.
Yeah, the chocolate stick. And it's whenever it's we're there studying for so long, we're okay, let's reward ourselves. We deserve this. Or whenever we take exams, we always go out to eat. And it's celebrating every single step of the process because it's difficult. It's hard. It's very mentally exhausting. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're oh, you're just studying, whatever. I have to, do all these things or whatever. And it's it's very mentally taxing to have to sit there and study. And you're not just studying, you're also preparing for different things. Sometimes you're going to the hospital. Sometimes you're working on research. You're working on different clubs. And it's having to balance all of that. It's a lot. But, again, finding your support system, distracting yourself, doing things that you love, going to the gym, keep doing hobbies. Like, that's important.
Yeah, I think it's important to be kind to yourself, like Juan said, and realize that you're here for a reason and that you totally can do whatever you set out to do. And also just, everything will fall into place. Everything will happen. Just be a part of the journey and be present. Right? It's very important. And also very important to stick to whatever your hobbies and whatever you really enjoyed doing before you got to medical school, because that person that got you here is still in medical school. That person still has hobbies and desires that they want met. They have needs that they want met. So don't leave the person who you were before you got into medical school behind. Bring them with you. Pursue your hobbies. Please pursue your hobbies. They make you who you are. Like, I enjoy playing soccer. I play soccer whenever I can at school. It's my release. It's my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing. And just pursue your passions. I think what made me so happy in medical school is my community, the fact that I was kind to myself, and the fact that I had the ability to really pursue the things that I liked in the form of clubs, research, playing soccer, etc. Like, stick to your passions, stick to who you are, and the journey will be less difficult.
It's been difficult. I think while it's really difficult, I think finding a routine has helped me. I'm still figuring that routine out, but if you can figure out a routine, that's really been helpful in helping me manage the stress that school comes up with, but also finding people to spend time with that you love during your free time. I mean, having your friends with you. I think having my family has been amazing because they're always like, they don't really understand much about school stuff, but they're always just so supportive. And I think that's like the main thing for me, is just having my family to support me. That's been my biggest distressor. I wanted to quickly say hello to the people who are watching us, and thank you so much for watching us. Jason Marte. Thank you. Jason Marte, Josue Maldonado, Ahmed Sabra, thank you so much.
Sabs.
Oh, Josue. Okay, Kike Riera, thank you so much for watching. Ashley Kunath.
That's my girlfriend.
Thank you so much for watching. Javier, thank you. Who else is watching? Yeah, keep watching.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, more.
Support.
Thank you for this. Wait, who else is watching? I don't see anybody else. Oh, wait. We're still checking. Oh, wait. Okay, we said that. Nancy, my mom. Thank you for watching us. Okay. Oh, Maria Andrade, thank you. I don't see any more. Okay. Well, we'll keep thanking you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us all the time. We couldn't do anything without you, and I hope that we get more people to join us in our podcasts.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
We'll come back again next month and hopefully bring up more topics that are interesting. And if you have any suggestions and things you want us to talk about, please comment so that we can bring up more interesting things. And we'll see you soon. After our licensing exam, please wish us good luck or pray, whatever you believe in, for our next exam. When are you taking it?
Oh my goodness, April 17th.
When are you taking it?
April 15th.
I'm taking it on 17th.
17th, same.
So those days are really important. Please, keep us in our prayers or your thoughts or whatever it is that you. Thank you so much. We can't wait to come back and see you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Somos el vínculo para educar, empoderar y organizar a las comunidades migrantes. Queremos defender nuestros derechos civiles y humanos. Si eres estudiante, jornalero, trabajadora doméstica o te interesa conocer más sobre tus derechos, síguenos en nuestras diferentes plataformas. Somos Radio Jornalera New Jersey. Este es un mensaje para todas las personas que quieren hacer un cambio en nuestra comunidad. Así que si estás liderando algún proyecto social, eres parte de alguna fundación o cualquier organización con la que estés impactando vidas, ven, queremos conocer sobre tu proyecto, queremos saber un poco más y sobre todo queremos que toda nuestra comunidad te conozca a ti y a las personas con las que estás ayudando a que este mundo sea un espacio mejor.
Eres frutos de mis manos, sin ver mi humanidad. Si gozas de mi trabajo, yo merezco igualdad.
Antes del amanecer dentro de este centro de empleo en Pasadena, California, un pequeño grupo de jornaleros preparan su día de trabajo. Pero en lugar de palas y martillos, para ellos las herramientas son una mezcladora de sonido.
Quiero que mi voz escuche. No silencies, jornalero. Quiero que mi voz escuche. El grito de libertad. Quiero que mi voz escuche. Como la razón del viento. Quiero que mi voz escuche. La verdad de tu existencia.
Una emisora de radio de California hecha por jornaleros y para jornaleros. Esta nueva plataforma busca informar, entretener y empoderar a los trabajadores que muchas veces no tienen espacio para expresarse.
En Radio Jornalera no restamos ni dividimos, sumamos corazones.
Que tu voz escuche.